I know, especially beat the Red Sox. Morning. Take any questions you may have.
How much time did you spend with Cleat and his crew talking about the kickoff stuff? He said that you were you and Matt were helpful to sort of discuss it.
Yeah, we spent an extensive amount of time here over the 2 days. I don't know how long exactly, but they were in all of our meetings. Coach was in there with us as well, and with Byron and Kyle, and so he was really good for us. We actually tried to speak over the phone a little bit in the summer after they got done with their officials meeting about how they're going to officiate it, some of the indicators for us to start, side blocks, back blocks, double team blocks, all those sort of things, really just to the initial alignment of both the kickoff and the kickoff return. So we were excited that they came in this early to camp, and it was a big help to us.
We were talking to Tyler Davis a couple days ago, and he mentioned that when he was out, that you kind of almost made him assistant coach as far as scouting reports and stuff like that.
Well, we put him in position to maybe learn it from a different point of view, where he could kind of look at different players during the year and what our schemes look like compared to their schemes. It had happened to me before in the past with players that had a year-long injury, and we put them in the room watching film and asked them for their evaluations of some of the schemes, how they saw it, and it kind of helped us from a player's perspective, and I think it also helped them, or hopefully it'll help TD as to how he can become a better player. That's really what we tried to do, keep him engaged all year.
So what do you get with him back and healthy? Just how big of an asset could that be for your units?
Well, I just think it's an asset for him, certainly. And he, during the year last year, he voiced some of his thoughts to some of the players. So it's just exciting, really, to have a healthy TD back, being the leader that he is, player that he is, the locker room player that he is. So, and I'm excited for him in the direction that he's going.
What have you liked, maybe disliked about each of your three kickers through this first week?
Yeah, it's just early. I'm just glad they're all healthy and all kicking the ball right now. The wind has been a nice, pleasant surprise for us. Hasn't been a tremendously crazy windy day, so it's been advantageous to them. But it's still a long process. It's early in the process of what we're trying to get to at the end, and we'll just keep kicking.
As long as I've been covering this, every coach they always kick with the wind. What's the reason for that? Would there be any value in ever going against it?
I can't speak for them, but we haven't done that here. We kick both ways here. We did it a bunch in the spring. I know we kicked a bunch of days into the wind that we had in the spring, and the wind is different here than it is in Lambeau, and so we're looking forward to family night and see what the kids look like on that night as well. But since I've been here, Coach LaFleur loves to throw into the wind. So when he does that on offense, we kick into the wind on those days. So we do it both ways.
We've only seen, obviously, what's out on the field, so I'm sure there's much more that goes on with those kickers behind closed doors. But right now, Greg and Anders, they're exactly the same. I think they both missed one in the stuff. If they go through the whole summer and they're basically have had the same results, how do you decide?
Again, we're in a kicker competition. I think there's competitive position battles going on throughout the team, and we're going to have constant conversation about it. And we'll sit down collectively and make a decision when the time comes.
Rich, some teams have considered using for kickoffs someone other than a kicker, maybe another defender or someone like that. Have you had any thoughts in that regard?
Well, you have to have one, first of all, so we'll see what happens when we play those other teams and what they do. I think this new kickoff thing is going to be fun and confusing and different, and a lot of questions are going to arise regardless of what position we're talking about. So see what happens.
Rich, last year your unit led the NFL with 28 penalties, special teams penalties. What do you have to do to bring that down, and is it a byproduct of just having so much youth and being such a young team?
Maybe all the above, the part about getting the penalties down. I think it has to do a little bit about our play style to some degree, depending on what the penalties are. To your point, our youth to some degree. And then at times, undisciplined players, making personal decisions to do some things out of the realm of what we're coaching or what we're teaching. So we hope to rectify that. But, penalty is not always the indication of really how you're playing, to be honest with you. I mean, thought we have an aggressive play style, so I'd love for that number to be down.
Rich, you mentioned competition along the roster, but I think the one player that doesn't have it is Daniel Whalen. What's impressed you about him so far, and what do you expect from him in year 2?
Well, we expect him to, play a little bit better. We thought he really played well in the red zone as the year went on. It's something he worked hard at. He's got a big leg. He's really done a good job of improving his holding. He's holding for 3 different kickers right now, and he's kind of been holding for 3 different kickers for a while through OTAs, and so that's a responsibility as well. But he's extremely smart, athletic. We'd like to get our field punts a little bit better directionally. I think he's working on that. So hope he makes a jump a little bit in the field and continues to improve in the red zone.
It's probably a safe bet that Keyshawn's going to return kickoffs. Is punt returner an open competition, or do you feel like you have that pretty well squared away?
Well, I think, again, both of those guys rotated last year, and we'll see what some of the young guys do as we get through the preseason.
Rich, do you feel like your team has a better understanding of the new rules after yesterday's talk?
I'd say after yesterday's talk, yes. I think we all do. Again, to the lead question about having the officials here, we actually asked one question to start the whole thing, and we were in a 25, 30-minute discussion about the one question about what the indicator is for all of us to get started, how it starts. So great question, and I'd like to think we all, players included, it was good conversation in our meetings. Cleat had a chance to talk to them a little bit, and so the side officials and how it's going to start. So, yeah, I think it certainly helped us all.
Rich, what do you think will be the most challenging aspect of the new kickoff?
Just a little louder, I'm sorry.
What do you think will be the most challenging aspect of the new kickoff rules?
I'd say as the year is going to go on, because it's already happened, we feel like there's going to be amendments to the rules according to what happens in the game. The parts of if the ball doesn't get to the 20, it goes to the 40. If the ball hits the ground inside the 20, it goes in the end zone, it goes to the 20. If you catch it in the end zone, you take a knee, it goes to the 30. So situationally, it's like, are you going to play every ball? Or are you going to, kick a touchback? What's the new drive start going to become? If the new drive start becomes the 30 and you give up 2 returns to the 38-yard line, the next one you're going to kick it out and make it a touchback, I think those are the unforeseen consequences of what's going to possibly happen. Is we're just going to have to play it and see what we're going to do. So, yeah, I think there's going to be many challenges. Some I don't really know what they are yet, if that makes any sense.
Rich, how about onside kick? That's the thing, even after talking to Cleat, I'm a little fuzzy on it. Where does it take place from, and what about that rule? There's some kind of rule of language that says if you pooch it over the setup zone and no one touches it, that, again, it goes to them. It's a penalty on you. It goes to the receiving team at the 20.
20, all the way back to the 20. So the onside kick now there is no surprise onside kick. So the onside kick is in the fourth quarter only. Your team has to be behind. You have to declare you're going to kick an onside kick, and you have to kick an onside kick that has a chance to be defended or played by the kicking team. If it goes through everyone or you pop it over the top and they can't make a play on the ball, it's going to be a penalty. It's going to go all the way to the 20. So they want the onside kick to be a viable play. They don't want you to be able to put it somewhere, pop it over their head to the return guy.
The line of scrimmage for the onside kick, is it your 40, the kicking team, or is it the receiving?
No, it goes back to the 35, and we're going to get back in a traditional type formation, 5 and 5. Correct.
Team's 35.
Correct. And it's going to go back to a 35, 5 and 5 on each side for the kickoff.
Rich, you've spent many years in football. Is it exciting to be doing something that's totally new with all these new rules?
Yes and no. I think in the beginning where everyone had questions, now this is it. This is what we have. So let's embrace it. Let's get excited about it, and let's see how good we can get at it.
Do you think there could be tweaks to the rule as it goes along? Cleat had mentioned that there may be adjustments during the season.
I do. I think we all do, and I think especially as we go through the first 3 preseason games, I think there'll be some sort of maybe amendments to some of the rules, those sort of things, maybe amendments to some of the lineups as well. And fortunately, we're going to practice against 2 teams. I think we've been encouraged to practice this against each other, have conversations about it, and talk about sending some of the practice film into the league so they can kind of see what it looks like from a practice setting as well.
You've had some time to practice it. Is there anything already that you think should be changed?
Well, I haven't thought of it that way. It's a great question. They already came out with a kind of an amendment for the the tee. The ball has to be in the cylinder of the tee, or you have to be on the ground and leaning on the tee. Can't be laid flat on top of the tee. So I think some of the kickers have been doing some things with the ball in the spring, funky kick-wise, to make them come out with that kind of new amendment to the rule.
Anything else?
Good.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.
I don't know, obvious question here, but just what kind of difference does Jordan make? I'm not talking just because he can throw the ball, but just because of his experience and his ability to run the offense and everything a quarterback brings to the table.
Yeah, I think, anytime you have your starting quarterback out there, that's very important, not only, for the operation of the offense, but just for the morale of the offense as a whole and the team. You can kind of see guys rallying around him and just respond to his presence. So it's great to have him back.
If you could pinpoint one thing that Sean is struggling with as far as the number of interceptions he's thrown so far, what would it be?
I don't know if there's just one thing. It's a thing that young guys kind of go through. They got to learn from their mistakes and things like that. But I think just going through his progressions and when he has those opportunities to make throws, just to make them. And it's one thing, this is why you practice, is to, again, learn from those mistakes. That way, once he gets to these preseason games, he can be sharp and be on point. So we're just, obviously, you never want to turn the ball over. That's one thing that we're all about, is just minimizing those. So we just got to keep getting better every day and learn from those.
I realize it's a teachable moment and all that, but is it a major concern?
Yeah, anytime you turn the ball over, but, again, it's practice. So it's just stuff that if guys can't go out there in practice and just play and they're scared to make mistakes and things like that, that's not good. You want them to go out there and play football. And so he's just kind of going through it right now, and we're just going to keep coaching him up, and hopefully look for some improvement as we move forward.
What went into the decision to begin Morgan at guard, and do you think you're going to keep him there for most of camp?
Yeah, I think with young guys, you kind of want to start them at a spot, and you don't want to move them around as much, just so they can hone in on the techniques and the assignments and all that stuff. And when you look at the big picture, kind of where you think he would compete best this year for a starting role, we looked and we thought the right guard position was the spot. So I think as of now, we'll kind of focus there. And, as he grasps it and gets better there, we can, move him around if we want to, or he does a great job there and he stays there and we're good to go. So I think right now we're just focusing on keeping him at one spot. That way he can really hone in on it and be the best that he can be.
How do you think he's kind of picked that up, sort of in this progression from the offseason program now to?
Yeah, no, he's done good. He's flashed some really good things. There's a lot of technique stuff that he still needs to learn, just like any young offensive lineman. And especially him going from tackle to guard, there's things that there's a learning progression there that you just have to go through. Good news is he's blocking some really good D linemen, so that's good. He's going to, get good exposure to that and play against really good competition in practice. But yeah, I think he's done a really good job so far, just learning and going through the growing pains and things like that you get. But I do see a lot of really good flashes from him, and I think he's got a bright future.
I understand keeping him in one spot, that makes sense to me. But also, where does it leave you at swing tackle time?
Yeah, we got a really good competition there. Obviously, we got Andre, we got Kadeem, Caleb's back in practice now, Glover, Tenuta. So we got a bunch of guys that, we're just going to keep rotating around and see who grabs that spot.
Adam, what have you seen from Josh Jacobs and what you think he may be able to do in the passing game? Is it more than just like a dump off or a screen? Can he do something else?
Yeah, he does. He has a really good knack for running routes. He's got pretty good hands. It's one thing, when we were going through it in OTAs and stuff, he does have the ability to catch the ball really well. So right now we're just kind of seeing what route concepts we think he'd be best at, and then as we move forward, once we get things going, how can we use him the best way? But yeah, he's definitely a guy that's he's a threat in the pass game too. Obviously running the ball. So yeah, it'll be exciting kind of moving forward with all that.
Because we were talking to him the other day, and I don't know if I've ever seen a guy so happy to be in a situation where he thinks they can win and just have some stability.
Yeah, he's got a great attitude, and you can tell he's not a super loud vocal guy, but he's just a really focused kid, really intent, really dialed in. He's got a good intensity about him that I really like, and you can tell he's hungry. He likes it here. He's hungry, and he wants to win.
So, I don't know, if I've seen a coach lay into a guy like Luke did to Rashid in his first training camp here. I thought there's no way he makes the team. But what since then has allowed him to kind of have a pretty comfortable hold on that left tackle spot?
I think Rashid, he's got an edge about him. He's a very intense competitor, and that's the one thing that has really helped him is he plays with an edge. He plays with kind of a chip on his shoulder, and with him, there was just kind of a big learning curve of buying into technique, buying into things, that may not have been as important in the college game. But when you're playing against really good competition every day, you have to be on point with things like that. So once he figured that out, and he's still got, improvements to make, but he's making strides, and you couple that with the competitiveness, the effort that he plays with, there's a lot of good stuff there, and he's shown us that he's a guy that, we can trust there at that spot.
Is he the kind of guy who sees you draft a college left tackle in the first round and uses that as part of that chip?
That'd be something you'd have to ask him, but from my perspective, yeah, I think so. He's a very competitive kid.
Obviously, getting Jordan back is good for morale, but was winning the day and having defense doing push-ups, is that important for the morale?
Yeah, I mean, that's always good. You always, obviously, when you get into those team competition periods, you're always going out there to try and win. So, yeah, I think that always helps for sure.
What's the next step for Jaden? He was so good, obviously, basically, how we wanted to use him last year. What's next for him?
I mean, it's funny because you got Jaden, who's such a weapon with the ball. So, again, it's just a matter of how many times can we get the ball in his hands. And just working on the different routes off, the stems that we've shown. How can we just take that next step with the route concepts, with his route running ability, and then again just trying to get the ball in his hands so he can make plays because he's shown he's very good at that.
What's the biggest difference that you've seen going against Jeff Hafley's defense, being different from last year to this year?
I'd say, like, schematically, more defensive backs in the box, less shell. The defensive backs are just more aggressive in run fits and things like that. Yeah, and they play with a really good edge, and it's been fun to go against for sure.
Did you say anything to Jordan that made him go deep to Watson that first day? Because it seemed like they were really, you're talking about how aggressive they are. They were really squatting on a lot.
Yeah. I think he saw that. Him and Christian actually talked about it before that. So once they had that opportunity and got that coverage, they definitely, it was good to see, for sure.
What do you think of Pratt so far?
He's a guy that, I will say he's learning. He shows really good arm talent, good arm strength. But any quarterback, and Sean Clifford kind of went through this last year, when you start getting into all these installs and all these plays, that it's not an easy thing to do. And he is very diligent. He's got an excellent work ethic. So I'm just excited to kind of see him 2 weeks from now, see him by the end of camp where he is and how he's developed. But he can make all the throws on the field, and he's got a very good work ethic. So, yeah, I'm hopeful.
Something we saw from him yesterday was the ability to use his cadence to get the defense to declare a little bit pre-snap.
Yeah.
I asked him about that in the locker room, and he said, well, that's just universal. All quarterbacks do that.
Yeah.
I seem to remember, 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. Is that kind of the evolution of the position?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we stress that a lot. Just, using your cadence not only to get the defense to tip their hand, but also to draw the D-line offsides. That's something that we've done for a long time here. And it's funny, like you say that all quarterbacks do that. Well, in college, most quarterbacks are clapping. They're doing silent cadences. They really don't have that experience of doing that. So it's good to see him kind of take that step as a professional quarterback where we do use cadence.
Steno, Matt said that this is the best version of A.J. Dillon he's seen. Is that just another offseason cliche of this guy's in the best shape of his life, or do you actually see something different?
No, I do. I noticed when he walked in the door, first day of OTAs, I was like, whoa, he looks just chiseled, more strong than he's ever looked. And he's been running the ball hard, so it's been good to see. Anytime you can have Josh Jacobs and A.J. Dillon, that's a pretty good 1-2 combination right there. So I'm excited to see those guys this year.
Stick in the backfield, and I'm not looking for a medical update about Marshawn Lloyd, but how's he doing as far as whenever he's healthy? Is he going to be able to get out there and play, or is he just kind of falling hopelessly behind at this point?
Well, no, I wouldn't say falling hopelessly behind. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty dramatic. Yeah. No, I mean, anytime, obviously, you want your guys out there so they can get reps and they can learn, especially when they're rookies and they haven't played and things like that. So is he behind? Yeah, but is he hopelessly behind? Absolutely not. We'll get him out there. We'll put him in situations, that we think he can handle. And then as we move forward, we'll put more on his shoulders. But from what I saw from OTAs, I was very, very excited about his speed, his cutting ability, his ability to catch the ball from the backfield and stuff like that. So, I can't wait to get him out there.
Adam, what have you seen from Kadeem to put himself in that, rotation now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's been a good surprise, and he's just been a steady guy. He's not the most athletic. He's not all of that stuff, when you look at the numbers, and he's a big guy. He plays consistently, which in the offensive line is very important. And he's just a consistent presence. He's very football intelligent, and he's just one of those guys that I'm excited to just see how he plays and how he keeps developing. And we'll see at the end of camp kind of how it all aligns.
Is Caleb Jones going to get an opportunity there? I mean, it's
like
last year he missed so much time.
Yeah.
And this year he starts injured.
Right.
But when he plays, he seems to play at a pretty damn high level.
Yeah, no, it's the same, thing. That was the problem last year. He had the injury, and then we get into camp, and he had another one. But he's back now. He hasn't missed much time. So, we're definitely going to work him in there. And we got a fun competition there. It's going to be good.
What's holding Andre back a little bit? I mean, we know his track record, but it seems like he's had a hard time.
Yeah, I think we just got to keep working him on both sides. He looks a lot better on the left side. He struggled a little bit on the right side. So us as coaches, we got to make sure we put him over there on that right side to make sure he feels comfortable playing over there. And then, it's a new scheme, just like anything, new terminology, some different techniques and things like that. So he just got to keep working at it, and we'll keep coaching him up.
What impresses you most about Romeo Dobbs, and how do you feel like he can grow even more as he enters year 3?
Yeah, it has been really cool watching Romeo over these last 3 seasons. Just the steps he makes every single year. His route running right now has been pretty tremendous. He's always had super strong hands, but the routes that he's putting on tape right now are pretty impressive. And he kind of ended the season last year, the last half of the season, he was playing at a pretty high level, and he's really continued that in camp so far. So I think with him, it's just, again, working on the techniques of all the different routes and it just being elite at all of them. That's really going to help his game. But he's shown pretty cool stuff on film so far.
Grant Dubose had a nice play down the field yesterday. What's been the thing that set him apart from last year to this year?
I think, last year at this time, if I remember correctly, he was injured with a back or something he missed pretty much all of camp. So he was kind of behind the 8 ball there. So now he's had, a whole season on the P squad. He's had all this offseason, and now training camp, we're really seeing kind of what he's about. And I really like what I'm seeing. He plays with good speed. He's a big target. He's got good hands. And he's a willing blocker, too, in the run game. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from Grant right now.
Can you describe what he did on
That route, because Keyshawn came over to him during the special teams portion, was like really complimenting him.
Yeah, no, I mean, he ran it with great speed, and at the top, he doubled him up and broke it off and kind of froze the DB. So it was just a very good route, and when you can run a well, timed route full speed, that's hard for a DB to cover one-on-one with so much open field. So it was impressive. It was a good route.
You guys good?
Okay, thanks, guys.
He's made a lot of plays. What stood out in that regard?
Well, I think Coach Downard's done a really good job with those guys. And I think we did a really good job drafting those guys. So credit to Goody and his group. Very smart, very competitive, very instinctual. And just the way they've worked. They're in here late at night. They have extra meetings. And I think, early on, they've done a good job of showing us that they understand the scheme. And they have the ability to make plays. So, it's a fun group to work with. There's competition that will be ongoing. And, I'm glad we have those two right now.
Evan's got the 3 picks. Everybody else has 1 or 2. Is there something about your defense that puts those guys in position to make those plays?
Well, I think in our defense, you can look at the guys having the interceptions right now, but I think it all starts up front with the rush, right? When you get a rush and you're aggressive up front and the quarterback can't throw in rhythm, or we tip a ball, or we get our hand up, or we're disruptive, and they're in the right place at the right time, I think it's a combination of rush plus coverage. And Evan seems to be in the right place a lot right now. So hopefully he continues to do that. But I do believe that, and I tell the defense all the time when I show turnovers to start every single meeting because it is the most important thing. And I show it in front of the whole defense, and it's not just rewarding the guy who intercepted the ball. It's why was the ball intercepted, and you turn on the tight copy, and it's because the 3 technique got pushed, and he got his hand up, and the quarterback had to change his arm angle, right? Or the quarterback had to step up in the pocket and, throw off balance. Like, those are the things that tie in, and I think everybody needs to understand that.
Handful of practices, but what have you thought of the start that Rashawn has been off to, and now seeing him actually in your scheme and what he's doing out there?
Hey, he's disruptive. What you don't really find out is how hard these guys practice until you get them live. And when you see him get off the ball and you see his intensity and you see his acceleration and you see how disruptive he can be, that's a credit to him. And I know he's bought in. And I know Rebs and Coach VO have done a really good job in that room. But then you see the leadership. I mean, there was an instance in practice where, he thought we should be even more intense, and he asked if he could grab the group. And I just looked at him, I said, yeah. I mean, definitely take ownership, and if you don't like something, do something about it. And he did, and the intensity picked up. And that's something that you guys might not see, but I think it's important to note when your best players are your best leaders, and they expect to practice and be great every day, that's special. So I appreciate that from him.
What have you seen from TJ up front? Traditionally, reading about your defense and your style of defense, he wouldn't be the prototypical body type I would think you'd probably be playing up front, but he seems to have kind of taken off this first week.
Yeah, I'm glad you've noticed that because most people don't look inside and notice the interior part of the D-line. I wouldn't say that he's not a scheme fit at all. I mean, he's big, right? He's wide, and he's explosive. And the coolest part about him right now, and I was joking doing bed check the other night, I talked to him for a while, the way he's getting off the ball at his size and how disruptive he can be and penetrate, I mean, it's hard to block. And you kind of saw a smile on his face. And another guy who I believe is bought in, and he's doing everything that we're trying to have those guys do and coach him to do. And if you get big guys like that penetrating up front, it causes problems. And I'm really happy the way he started, and I hope he can continue to build off of it because I think if he does and continues to improve, he can really help us out a lot and help himself out a lot.
What do you think of your linebacker room and kind of the depth you have there?
I think it's getting better. I love being around those guys. I think Coach Camp has done a really good job. Fundamentals, technique, I think they're really starting to use their hands really well. I mean, you see a couple shots where Quay's in there getting his hands on people, getting rid of them and making plays. I see they're starting to play faster within the scheme, whether it's in zone coverage, man coverage, the ability to get downhill for all those guys. They're seeing it better. And we're young still in that group, which is good. And I think there's improvement every single day right now.
Just because it's a new scheme, do you feel like you need to play your guys a little bit more, starters a little bit more in the preseason? I know Matt typically, sits a lot of guys out. Is that necessary that they're going to need some game reps in the preseason?
No, I think that's a good question for Matt, and whatever he decides, I'll be happy to go with. I think what helps is, we're going up against a really good offense right now, and watching all Matt's motions and Steno's motions and shifts and movement, and it can make your head spin or explode. And I think you really got to be on it to line up and have all your rules be really sound. So I think we're getting challenged every single day. And then I think it will really help that we have the 2 joint practices with Denver and Baltimore. So I think those 2 practices are almost simulating game-like, where we don't know exactly what we're going to get, and we're going to have to go compete and practice against them. But whatever Matt decides, we'll go with. But like I said, it is a challenge going against our offense right now, and I think that will help prepare us for what we're going to see week in and week out.
Matt just asked you about linebackers a minute ago. What have you thought of Eric Wilson? And, I keep notes every day like the rest of us do, and it seems like I have 45 written down more than almost anybody else.
Yeah, I love the guy. I don't know how much time you spent around him, but forget about him on the field for a second. Off the field, he's one of the best guys you could be around. He's a pro. The way he sits in meeting rooms, takes notes, helps the younger guys, stays after, takes care of his body. You see him show up on special teams, punching a ball out, which I showed to the defense the other day. You see him showing up on defense, punching a ball out. He can play multiple positions because he's a very smart player, and he's reliable. And he's a guy that you can trust. He's going to go 100 miles an hour and know exactly what to do, and he's going to try to finish. So I'm very pleased with him. I'm a big fan.
Jeff, you had mentioned before you'd watched Keyshawn's tape a little bit before you guys re-signed him. Did you do the similar thing with Eric? Was there something you saw with him, when you guys ended up bringing him back?
Yeah, we watched everybody's tape. And, sometimes it's hard when you watch the tape and the scheme might be a little bit different, or what they're asked to do might be a little different. And I'm not saying one's right or one wrong. I'll never do that. But it's not until you really get them live, and then you get them in a meeting room, and then you get them, just get around guys. You find out who they really are, what their makeup is, and what it looks like on the practice field, and how hard they're going to go on the practice field. That's the one thing I'll give credit to the whole defense right now, and I credit the coaches and the players for that. These guys are practicing hard. They're flying around, they're competitive. It's just, to me, the attitude, the effort, the commitment to each other, the buy-in. That, to me, in the first week was the most important thing, because then I think the confidence will build, right? And they know what they're doing in the scheme, because we're still pretty new within the scheme. So the more they know what to do, the faster we're going to play, the more aggressive we're going to get. And that's what we're probably the most proud right now as a coaching staff. It's just, we appreciate the buy-in, and these guys are doing everything we're asking them to do, and they're really going hard, which is really cool to see.
You mentioned the motion on offense, which is obviously prevalent across the league. How have your rookie safeties been handling that? Because I got to think it's throwing a lot at them.
Yeah, it is throwing a lot at them. It's hard to line up, and you better know what you're doing, or you're going to get embarrassed and exposed really fast, and that's what Matt and the offensive staff is really good at. But again, I think Ryan's doing a really good job, and DA's doing a really good job getting those guys ready, but they're really smart guys. And they've really done a good job of studying, and I think having X back there helps too, because he's a smart guy who's seen it all, and I think the relationship in that room with all those guys right now is really building, and they trust each other. And there's moments, right, where we got to turn on the tape, and it's all right. That's why we practice. So those guys are going to have some moments, and it can't be like it's the end of the world and we yell and scream. No, it's like, let's learn from it. Just don't do it again,
How do you assess where the competition is between Stokes and Valentine right now at corner? What do you like? What you see? Or
I like what I see in both of them. I think Stokes has had a really good start to camp. He's been good in coverage. He showed physicality coming up playing the run. And then CV's, he's done a nice job. He's gotten his hands on the football a lot, as has Stokes. Stokes had the 2 picks in the 1 practice. Ultra competitive. He's trying to be physical in there, which is what I like to see. And I think those guys are pushing each other, and I think that's really important. Ultimately, we're going to play the best players, and if we have to play multiple guys because they deserve to get on the field, then we'll do that. It's a long season, as you guys know, and we're going to need all those guys, and I'm really glad they're both here.
Jeff, we saw Kenny's new contract earlier last week. What does he bring to this team as a coach that maybe we don't see out on the field?
Yeah, I mean, congrats to Kenny. I mean, I think he's so deserving of that in so many different ways in the short period that I've been around him. One, you study his film. I think he's one of the best interior D linemen in the whole National Football League, and I think most people would say that. But he's another guy which, I mean, you guys have been around these players here and longer than I have. I think they've done such a good job of drafting high-character people that are great people on and off the field, and I think Kenny's one of the best. I mean, he's such a good pro. He's so good with the younger players. He's so fun to coach. I mean, he sits in his room and he takes notes like he's a first-year player. He's a good teammate on the field, and he's disruptive. I mean, I love what he does off the field. I love what he does on the field even more. I'm very glad that he's going to be here. He deserves it.
As a coach, what is it like to have those older veteran players for the young guys to look up to?
It's so important. I mean, they need to take ownership. They're the ones that are out on the field, and those are the ones that have to teach the younger guys how we do things. I mean, as a coach, yeah, it's nice. You get guys to buy in and lock in. You tell them something. When you get a guy like Kenny grabbing a young D lineman or grabbing a young guy at any position, and he tells him something, or he tries to give him a little nugget on something, you don't even know how far that goes, right? And he's a selfless player who just wants to help other guys. And again, I think we have guys like that at every position, which makes it a lot of fun to coach these guys right now.
Going back to the safeties, looking for that starter opposite McKinney, is it merely as simple as finding the best all-around players, or something specific that you're looking for or looking to in that spot?
Well, I think we're always looking for the guy that's going to give us the best chance to win. And I think it's going to be ongoing. You know, I couldn't sit here and tell you right now who that starter is going to be. I don't know if I will be able to do that in a week. And that's not coach speak. That's the truth. I think there's guys competing back there, and I think Anthony Johnson's another guy that's doing a nice job of competing back there. And I think as the season goes, I think we're going to have roles for a lot of those guys that prove they deserve to be on the field and get creative with how we can use certain players. And if one guy jumps out and he's a guy, he's a guy. But there's not a rush for that right now. You know, it's fun coaching those guys. It's fun seeing them compete. And I think ultimately that brings out the best in the other guys in the room. I mean, I think anytime you have someone behind you that's going to push you every day in practice, you're naturally going to get better. And I think that's what's been created on this defense right now at certain positions.
Are you in the same boat kind of with your the linebackers, that level? I mean, seeing a lot of different combinations of people. Are you anywhere close to sorting that out?
Yeah, I think it will take time too, but I think right now if you look at Quay and McDuffie and Eric, those are the three guys that have played. And then you get guys like Coop and Hop and some of those other guys that I think every single practice you see them get better and better. And that's what's exciting. And again, Camp's done a great job with those young backers and the older guys. I think even looking at Quay right now, I think you're going to see a confidence in him. I think he's having fun out there. He's playing fast, and I mean, he's got the size, the length, the speed. I think he's an instinctual guy, and I think he's good for those younger guys as well. You know, Coop, you see every single day. You see the athleticism, and you see him flash, and you see him run, and then you see him do something that he's been coached to do, and it's like he's got it, you know. And then the next day maybe he makes a mistake because he's young again, and you just keep building off of that. But that's why I'm excited for the preseason games, because we're going to get to see these guys play live in game-like situations. And I think Matt does a really good job making competitive periods where we're off the field and there's no coaches around, and we got to see, you know, who can get it done when we're not around to help them.
Jeff, you have a lot of depth along your defensive line. What's your idea? Do you want, you know, your best guys out there 70% of the time playing a ton of snaps, or would you like more of like a hockey line where guys are staying fresh and, you know, coming in and out?
I think it depends, right? I think there's certain guys we might want out there a lot. And then I think there's certain positions where you wear out and, you know, you're grinding against the run and you got to get those guys in and out. But then there's certain situations you better have your best players on the field. And then when it comes down to the end of the game and the game's on the line in the fourth quarter, you better have your best players fresh and ready to go. The more depth you have, the more you can roll them in so you don't get worn out. And that's what we do. We have depth right now, and we need to figure that out. And I think that's something that will really help us as the season gets long to make sure that our best players are playing their best late in the season, and depth up front allows us to do that.
With Isaiah McDuffie, I think there was crossover with you two. He was at Boston College, you were too. What is it like to just be back with him, and how have you seen him develop?
Yeah, he was our starting linebacker my first year as a head coach there. And it's fun because he's the same guy. He's the guy that he is going to run through a wall for you. He is a guy that when you turn on the tape and you want to show good examples of effort from a guy running from there to 40 yards down the field, you can turn on any single play and see him. The cool thing is how much he's developed, right? When I had him there, it was his first year really playing as like a stack linebacker in a 4-3 type scheme. And now you can see how much he's grown over the, I guess, 4 years that I've been away from him, and how much better he's got. Because the guy just works. You're not going to find a guy outwork him, and then you're going to find a physical guy that's going to put it on the line every single day. And that's how he plays, and that's how he practices. He's had a really good start, really good start. It's good to be back with him. I mean, he's an awesome guy.
I promise this isn't a question about last year's scheme, but there have been multiple guys who were here last year, specifically on the D-line, who have used the terms attack-minded, aggressive, whatever. Every D-line wants to be those things. But what about your scheme do you think has them, really excited about the way you guys are getting after it up front?
And that's probably a better question for them. I mean, you'd have to ask them that question, honestly. The one thing, all I can tell you is I just appreciate the buy-in and how hard they're going, because they are going, and they've been disruptive, and they need to continue to get better and do that. But you can ask them that question.
Is it as simple, because Rashawn said we have our hand into there this year, we're not dropping back as much. Is it that simple?
Again, you got to ask him. I mean, I'm not trying to avoid your question. I can't put words in his mouth, if that's what he says. And hey, I'm glad he likes what he's doing. Let's keep him happy and rushing.
What went into the decision to have Kalen work with the slot group, I guess, with Keyshawn and the individual stuff? Because it seems to have paid off yesterday with that big interception.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a guy that we saw on tape that has versatility to him. In college, he played inside, he played outside, and we're trying to figure out, other guys who can go inside. You have to have that versatility, and he's a guy right now we believe he can do some of those things. So we'll keep working him and mixing him around.
How have you enjoyed the traditions that come along with practice training camp with the bikes and obviously family night coming up?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I opened the door and I just saw all those people, I felt like it was game day. I had no idea what was going on. And then all the kids with the bikes, I think that's so cool. I mean, the kids are lining up with their bikes. I mean, people asking for autographs. Every day you walk through and it feels like game day. And then you walk and it's a sellout practice and there's people in the stands. Shoot, I left last night late and I think people were tailgating in our parking lot at 9 o'clock at night. We ended practice at 12:15. I mean, there was people tailgating in our parking lot at 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday. Practice had been over for 6 hours. People were asking for autographs and running around. And I mean, so yeah, I'm really excited for family night. I don't think I have any clue what that's going to be like. But how awesome are the fans here? I mean, showing up like that and loving the team so much. Where else in the world does that happen? So I love it. It's awesome. And the players love it. Think about all the energy it brings. Every single day they run out and the fans are standing up and clapping and cheering. And I mean, it is a great place.
You ride any bikes?
No, I haven't yet. I should, though. I should. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. As long as they don't get mad at me, I'll ride a bike.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good day.